Welcome to Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda. On this day 80 years ago, the 16th of December 1944, the German army launched a counter-offensive in Europe against Allied forces, and that began what became known as the Battle of the Bulge. It was the largest and bloodiest battle of World War II for American forces. And I was reminded of that some years ago. I was in the United States with my wife Janice, and we had to drive from Atlanta, Georgia, up to Kentucky, just fairly close to Cincinnati, Ohio. And as we were driving up, the weather got worse and worse, and we ended up in deep snow. And the motorway, the interstate, was blocked totally. Lorries were jackknifing, all the traffic was stuck, and we spent about 10 hours just sat in heavy snow, unable to move an inch. And it was cold. Now we would turn on the car for a little while to try and get some heat into the car, and then turn it off because we didn't want to run out of petrol and freeze to death. We didn't know if we were going to be there for days. Well, finally, after about 10 hours, things were shifted a little bit. We were able to turn back and just go to a nearby motel. And Janice was not well. She had to stay there at the motel. She wasn't fit to travel the next day. I had to go up. I had an engagement to preach at a church up in Kentucky. So I drove on up. And I remember while I was there, after the church service, I'm sat talking with some older church members, and the conversation got around to being stuck in the snow on the road. And I was sharing how cold it was. And then this old man looked at me and said, "That wasn't cold." He said, "Let me tell you what cold is." And he told me how he was one of the troops that took part in the Battle of the Bulge. He said it was in winter. He said he had never been so cold in his life. He was watching comrades of his suffering from frostbite, and he said it was the coldest he could ever imagine. He thought he would never feel warm again. I have to say, I agreed with him that what I'd been through the day before was absolutely nothing to what he had been through in the Battle of the Bulge. But in the movie, the 1965 movie called The Battle of the Bulge, there's a scene there where an American soldier has been captured, and a German colonel is brought a box by some of his forces, say, "Look what we found on this prisoner." And in the box was some chocolate cake, that he had been sent chocolate cake from the United States. And the German colonel looked at the chocolate cake in the box taken from this American prisoner and said, "We've lost the war." And his troops stared at him and said, "What do you mean, we've lost the war? What, because of a slice of cake?" He said, "Yes." He said, "Because what this tells me is that they've got more resources than we will ever have." He said, "We haven't even got enough fuel to get our Panzer tanks across the field of battle, and they've got enough fuel to transport chocolate cake from America." He said, "Their resources are so much greater than ours. Doesn't matter how bravely we fight, we are not going to win this war." You know, I've been reminded of that on a number of occasions, whenever sometimes I find myself in a situation where I feel inadequate, where I feel like I don't have what it takes, where I feel like it takes more than the resources that I have. And then I remember that we have all the resources of Jesus Christ at our disposal. And my God will supply all of our needs according to his riches and glory in Christ Jesus. And so we never have to feel like that German colonel. We never have to look and say our resources are so little compared to our enemy. We have all the resources of heaven itself. And that means that no matter how tough we might find it at times, no matter how difficult the battle may be, we are on the winning side because we have God's resources at our disposal. May God bless you today. Join us again tomorrow for another Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda.